People keep coming to, the lovely people here come to talk to me. They come over. Where are you from? And which temple are you staying? And we have these long conversations. So I've been here quite a while. I just came to quickly sit and go through some questions and comments, which I will get on with now. But it's very lovely to talk to the locals here and hear their, again, another perspective on Buddhist monks. The Dharma is much the same wherever you go, but how monks interact with society, it seems to vary considerably. I think we're rather spoilt in the West in that we stick so vehemently to the Vinaya in our monasteries of whatever traditions and live predominantly within the monastery community that interaction is usually only on a formal arrangement, a basis where people are coming to the temple in accordance with your rules. When you're out and about wandering, you're in their domain, in the lay people's domain, which in a Buddhist country is different to a non-Buddhist country. In a non-Buddhist country, you are just an oddball, invisible, if anything, these days. There's not so much in the way of prejudice or anything like that. People rather just try and not stare and ignore you, unless they've seen Buddhist monks on the TV or on YouTube or on the internet, in which case they will come over and want to talk to you. But they know what to say. They've learnt from the internet or from videos or TV. In a Buddhist country, they have their way of the way they've grown up, and they're conditioned to behave around the Sangha, around Buddhist monks. And Pindapat here is one good example. They are not so used to the temple monks, the city monks in this area, going out, well, they don't go out on Pindapat. So me doing this every day results in a lot of interest and a lot of happiness, a lot of smiling faces, and a lot of people coming out and really generously donating food. Now so much, I'm really struggling to carry it all. And may have to just not walk quite so far in order to manage to bring back. Using the food is no problem. There are plenty of people for me to then pass it on to who need food. So it's a very wonderful part of my day, enjoyable, and seems to work both ways. People are happy to see me. It's the smiling faces that make me feel very good in the sense that I feel that my job, my right livelihood is worthwhile. If I can bring smiles to people's faces at that early hour in the day by simply doing nothing other than walking past where they live, then I can't think of any better or more right livelihood than that. I also get fed very well each and every day. So I was going to talk whilst I was back in our little temple there, the room, but it is a bit noisy there for talking. Here you can hear the sea, you can hear the road sounds there, and that isn't so much of a distraction, but sometimes it will, a bus will stop outside, a lot of people get off, and it can be a little disruptive, but it's fine for my own practice. But people are wanting to come and join me for meditation local people. So that I positively encourage, and I will be, I think, having some regular meditation, guided meditations, both on here and in real life, for real. I know this is real life too, but live on here, and some people joining me in our little place. our little place across the road there. So with that in mind, we might be moving that little place to somewhere a little more peaceful, especially for people newer to meditation, whom talking here doesn't distract me because it's in a language I don't understand. But of course, if talking outside of your meditation environment is going on and it's in your own language, then it's only reasonable to expect that you will be distracted. To me, it's just like blee, 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 blee. It doesn't mean anything. So it's just like the car sounds, the sea sounds, or in the jungle sounds. So on that point, it brings me nicely onto a question. I was waiting for some of my rambling to take me there, and here we go. I'll begin with this one. Venomous snakes, spiders, the size of your hand, wild animals. Yes, all of those are in the jungle. Many snakes, huge as well as the big spiders. How did you, Bhante, learn to meditate with all those things distracting around you in the jungle? Because I feel compared to that, cars and people chattering are nothing at all. That is coincidence. It's a good question, isn't it, leading on from what I was saying? That must have been there and planted in the back of my mind somewhere. I think not. It's just that these are what we're dealing with in reality, what all of you meditators, if you're meditators or beginning meditation, have to deal with. Distraction. But it really isn't external distraction that is the problem. Whatever's going on outside of us is that. It is outside, and can to some extent by not listening or by closing our eyes, by not paying too much attention to what is going on outside, guarding our sense doors, we can minimize that distraction. But what we are battling with is the distraction from within ourselves, our own minds. Our own minds, either aversion to the sounds, the feelings, the nature of those emotions resulting from those sounds and feelings that arise, for instance, say fear, or liking, lust, wanting, whatever they may be, whether positive or negative, they are hindrances, distractions from our meditation practice, our meditation on an object, a singular object, trying to bring ourselves into states of absorbed focus on one thing we call samadhi. And if this is the breath, which is by far the most easy to access and suitable, and also flexible and intuitive meditative object, meditation object. If it is the breath, then we can of course be watching the breath, and it doesn't take long for our mind to wander just of its own accord, even without distraction. But when there's distraction, of course, it's prompted into thinking about that distraction, whether it's something that you will want or something you don't want, and then your mind will start to chase after it with its inner natural tendency towards craving for that to be, something to have, or for aversion for it to go away, for it to stop, something you're not liking. Bringing up these emotions, which are far more distracting than what it is that's going on outside. So bringing this back to your question in terms of the comparison between the wild animals and noise and chatter and this kind of thing. The two distractions that are perhaps the most difficult to deal with, I suppose. Also, if you are hungry, the smell of cooking food is a difficult one. But normally speaking, music, if you're of a musical inclination previously, we're not allowed to listen to music as monks, or it's one of our rules, one of the precepts. We refrain from listening to music or entertainment. So if you hear music, it can often bring back a lot of evocative memories, so can smells, of food, cooking, something like that. And then speech, if it's in your own language, of course it's very hard to ignore what is being said. These are the main distracting external things. In terms of jungle environment, snakes, big spiders, wild animals, this kind of thing, are very unintrusive. once you've lived in a jungle, spent time in a jungle, you get used to the discomfort of the humidity. I mean, where I'm sitting now, it's extremely, even though I'm on the sea shore, on the beach here in this little grove, there's no sea breeze at the moment, so I'm very hot. It's very humid. The air is wet. I mean, I'm sweating, but it's also damp in the air. This is quite the natural jungle environment, this humidity. That can be a source for aversion, especially when it starts really getting under your skin and you start getting prickly heat and itching, and then the mosquitoes. These are the things you get used to. The big things, those wild animals, snakes, they leave you alone. The spiders, the toxic frogs. Really, the only creatures that will really want to get to know you are mosquitoes, and I've talked so many times about those. I won't go into how we deal with mosquitoes again. Just search mosquitoes on this channel. You'll find many talks about them, my little friends. Apparently here leeches are quite abundant. I think I did have one on me, but I didn't see it. It was dark. I just saw the blood after I'd brushed it off. Apparently there's a way you should remove them gently, but I wasn't quite aware. But they apparently like to drink your blood also. I don't think they're so much annoying as an unpleasant situation. So they would be, of course, intrusive, and one has to often take action. Use a mosquito net or mosquito repellents, this kind of thing, or change where you're sitting. But in terms of ordinary distraction away from our meditation object and hindering our practices, it's the internal hindrances. Sensual desire, yes, or lust, wanting stuff. Ill will, so aversion, not wanting something like the humidity. Tiredness, laziness, lethargy. They call it sloth and torpor, old-fashioned English words, but really it's just lethargy, no energy, tiredness. That is the problem there. We can re-energize ourselves by, keeping this erect posture, keeping the spine straight, pulling our back in, breathing deeply, and really try to refresh ourselves this way. Then restlessness and worry is really just thinking about the past, thinking about the future, rather than really just letting go and being in this present moment and enjoying what we have right here and now. That is what we always have, and that is all we have, this present moment, right here and now. The past is gone, the future hasn't happened yet. We can only enjoy what it is we have in this moment. And being that it is only this moment, and being that it is timeless, it has nothing within it of itself that lasts. So even pain doesn't affect you, because pain requires time, existence to continue. But pain over time, like all things, anicca, is impermanent, will come to an end. When we realize these fundamental, these essential characteristics of our existence, of anicca, impermanence, and this suffering, dukkha, we see for ourselves very clearly through this experiential practice of meditation that is just ordinary, but when bringing ourselves into this present moment, rather than thinking about the past or thinking about the future, we're very much free from that suffering. And finally, doubt into this as to what this practice is about. When we understand these Four Noble Truths and we're practicing the Noble Eightfold Path, practicing the Noble Eightfold Path of Sila, Samadhi, Panya will bring to us our realization of suffering and the end of suffering. And suffering and the end of suffering is the reason to practice the Noble Eightfold Path of Sila, Samadhi, Panya. So the two go together or round in a circle. This is going to eradicate any doubt you have about the practice. If you have any doubt, can you ask yourself, well, am I not suffering? You always are suffering. There is always suffering. All beings are suffering. There is suffering. We may not have established, identified, and certainly not eradicated its cause yet, but there is a cause. And by the very fact that there is a cause, if you can eradicate the cause, then there is an end to suffering. So it's just identifying that cause that is the end of suffering. And the cause is, really, it's just desire, coming from those root defilements of greed, which is again that first hindrance in meditation, sensual desire, lust, craving. It's hatred, which is that second hindrance in meditation, which is ill will, or not wanting what is going on, what is happening, what you're experiencing, or hatred. Delusion is just ignorance. But with this understanding of the Four Noble Truths by the practice of the Noble Eightfold Path, so the development through sila, morality, samadhi, meditation, the development of wisdom, panya, wisdom, this panya is the understanding of that, anicca, dukkha, anatta. It is the understanding of impermanence, suffering, and all of these things being out of our control. This is the eradication of that doubt, and that doubt is the basis of ignorance, the basis of delusion. So those three root defilements, greed, hatred, delusion being ignorance or confusion coming from all I've just said, the eradication of those is the eradication of desire. So ignorance is the first part of this 12 steps, links of dependent origination resulting in rebirth or even birth or even suffering. The birth of suffering in each moment is a result of desire based on greed, hatred and delusion. So big spiders, snakes, whatever other creatures you mentioned in the jungle are by far from our enemies. They are our mutual brothers and sisters in birth, aging, sickness and death, and they are suffering likewise just as much as ourselves. If you are practicing metta, loving kindness, you have compassion, karuna, you have mudita, joy for other people's success, happiness, pleasure, and establish from those this state of mind of equanimity, upekkha, unreactiveness, then these other beings, however venomous, poisonous or scary they might seem, wild they might seem, even however hungry they may be, they will not harm you because they know you do them no harm. You're giving them that gift of fearlessness. And if other beings, other creatures have no fear of you, they will leave you alone. You just have to look at them in the eye if they get close, smile, but nicely, don't show your teeth. This can be a sign of aggression, especially if it's not natural. But more importantly, with no expression, think how this creature, this being, this fellow being, this brother, sister in aging, sickness and death is feeling at the moment. It's probably feeling nervous, it's probably feeling scared, just like you. But also know it has a mother whom has unconditional love for it, and like all beings, even in our own species, other humans, however aggressive they're being towards you, this individual, this being's mother has unconditional love for them. Just remember that, and it will just tweak, it will just trigger that metta, that loving kindness within yourself. And people, things, those will not harm you with that inbuilt quality. You're not radiating it, it is just there, like a beautiful flower with its beautiful fragrance. Somebody doesn't want to, they might want to pick it to take it home and experience it or share it, but they won't just crush it, they won't harm it. And most people these days won't pick it either, but it will be left. And if you have these qualities, beautiful qualities within yourself, they are protective. They have that nature of protection, keeping a barrier around you like a bubble. So they're the least of our problems. And the other problems, the cars and the chitta-tatta, the very kind upasakas here, and upasakas, but I haven't really met any upasakas yet, so I'm not excluding the female, I meet many on Pindapat, but coming to my place, because it wouldn't be appropriate, so just the men come, a few of the upasikas. Upasika is a man layperson, upasika is a lady layperson. They don't use these words so much here, so it's a little confusing. My understanding was the Pali language, the Pali canon, kind of came from here, but it seems they don't know so much about it. They use a lot of Sanskrit words, so I'm getting a little confused. But these things are what we learn after we've lived in a place for a few years. We learn the little different idiosyncrasies about the communities we're amongst. So I can't see myself getting through many of these questions, but today, and when you're watching this, it should be Monday, if I get the opportunity, and hopefully can get this uploaded on time. Okay, I won't do that one because it might provoke a long answer from me. Hi Bhante, thank you for your videos. They help me to understand Buddhism. While watching your morning chanting video, I saw you changing your pose. Could you explain what poses are suitable for chanting and sitting down in general? I can't really demonstrate where I am now because I'll get too much sand going on. I actually, when I there is a video how to bow and different postures, but when I begin the chanting, I am on my haunches, it's called, so I'm sitting on my heels upright, and this is how we pay homage to the Buddha, the Dharma and the Sangha, and we can bow from that position 3 times. Then when we're chanting the suttas, which I don't do yet so much of for time constraints, then we sit in what's called the polite position with this right leg and our right foot outwards behind us, so no feet are ever sitting towards the floor. And then the third posture is this, where I'm sitting with my right foot, calf, leg on my left thigh, the meditation posture. But there is a full explanatory video on how those sitting postures work when we're chanting and in the temple environment, and in any situation whereby you're addressing a monk. Oh wow, nice idol. Right, well, a Buddha Rupa is only a statue, it is not an idol in that sense. It represents, really, like the written word represents a meaning, has a meaning. In terms of Buddhism, the Buddha Rupa is representative of the Buddha, our teacher, rather than an entity unto itself. So when we are bowing, when we are chanting, it is focusing our efforts, our energy, virya, our determination of this chanting, this practice, in one direction, because we need to be focused. This is the nature of humanity and all beings, really. We need to concentrate our good intentions in a direction upon something. It's an inanimate object, though. We're not worshipping an idol. The word idol implies that. They offer actual goods to it, things to it, in the hopes that they will receive something back. It's praying, it's worshipping. That's my limited understanding of that activity. But in this sense, it's not, the Buddha Rupa is not an idol. It is merely a point of reference, like a word that has a meaning, not an entity unto itself. And I hope that also answers some of the long string of questions now, not from Christians, from Islamic faiths, whom seem to think I am idol worshipping, which is quite against their faith, as it is against Christian faith also. It's one of the 10 commandments, worshipping, thou shalt not worship false idols. Buddhists are not worshipping. It may seem that way, but listen to the words, translate the words that we are chanting. There is no praying, there is no worshipping. There is veneration of our teacher, as there can be, for instance, veneration of the prophets, Jesus Christ or Mohammed, blessed be his name. They are teachers, prophets, whom we venerate with that awe-inspired energy and commitment, but we're not worshipping or praying to their image, let's say. Whether there is not a god, many gods, over and above all of that is not what we're talking about here, or they're talking about in those strings of comments coming on that place I try not to go to, but I can't help it because sometimes there are questions, good questions, and I will ask again, please, if you have questions, make a new comment. Don't add them onto the strings, because I won't get to them always. There's going to come a time it's going to be impossible to go through those strings. So what I mean by a string is if you make a comment and you get an answer, and then you have another question, it doesn't matter what a video you comment on, because I don't know which video you're commenting on anyway. Just make a new comment, and then I'll get it straight away, up to date. Otherwise I might not get it for some long time. And I want to get all of your questions and comments because they're very useful, very interesting, and they help everybody. And this is what this channel is about. This is what we're all doing for each other, sharing our views and opinions kindly and nicely with each other and learning from each other. I hope this is the intention. So thank you for your comment. And it is a nice Buddha Rupa statue. It is a nice statue, yes. Okay, the wrong button. Sadhu, sadhu. How do you find Sri Lanka for your spiritual progress? Oh, well, I think I've answered that, haven't I? For my spiritual progress, I can't tell you exactly about my spiritual progress so far or henceforth. This is something as monks we don't discuss with anyone other than our teachers, or perhaps peers, other monks in our Sangha, for when we need assistance. But we're not allowed to talk about our own attainments. But in terms of the place and environment, a support structure, I couldn't wish for a more supportive community place to be than this. I mean, Thailand again is also a Buddhist country and very supportive too. It's very similar to Thailand. It's early days. I've only been here for 2 weeks. It's actually, I think, 2 weeks today. We had the new moon Uposatha yesterday, and it was the full moon Uposatha when I arrived or left India the day after to come here. So just about 2 weeks. 2 weeks, a Monday to Monday calendar anyway. It is 2 weeks today. I'm very happy here. I've been so well accepted, looked after, taken care of, supported in what I'm doing in my practice, and also made to feel that I am appreciated for what I'm doing here. They respect that I have given things up to live this life, and they respect the fact that I've chosen their country to come and visit, and now seriously considering staying considerably much longer. That seems to be a mutually the mutually agreeable relationship that seems to has developed between me and the people of this country so far in just this very short time. So I would say the answer to that question is that it's very positive towards my spiritual progress, immediately and long term. Okay, sorry, I'm not sure if you've mentioned it previously. When you travel to different countries such as Sri Lanka, do you decide where you want to go, or does the monastery body decide where you need to go? And does your upasaka sort your flights, etc.? And somebody also has been wondering the same thing. Yes, I think I have talked about this, but I'm really happy to talk about it again. I don't really plan much ahead or decide. Some things are decided for me. In India, or when visas run out, this for instance, I have to go to another country. So I just usually go to the nearest one. I decide for myself, and it's not for any particular reason than if I've been somewhere for some time. I mean, I was in India for 3 years, And then although I moved around a little bit within India, apart from some visa runs where I've had to go to Nepal and come back, and once I went to England and came back. But no, nobody particularly decides. I decide. I have to ask my Sangha. I ask my senior monk, my teacher at my monastery in India for permission. I say, look, I know people there. I've had invitations to go to this country to practice. Is that okay? He then asks the rest of the Sangha, the other bhikkhus, and then comes back to me and says, yes, that's okay. You can go with our blessing. But it's usually my idea. As for who pays for it, usually whomever's invited you will get the tickets. Bearing in mind the tickets prices between these countries isn't that expensive. We're not looking at flying back to England or the other side of the world. This can be the case, or if it's a visa-inspired move, I have a fund to deal with all of those expenses. As I've said before, I have a trust fund and a trustee whom isn't necessarily my kapya or upasaka, because they change continually. We're different countries that I'm in, and also you have to establish a kind of a working relationship. So I have a kapya here whom I can go to the ATM, we can get some cash, and he can look after that bit of cash to buy me coffee, buy me toothpaste if these things weren't being offered, which they are offered in abundance. So he rarely has to be used for that purpose, but that's there from your kind donations, and that's now also bought me something which is quite dear to my heart and quite good for my health, and that is Marmite. So as a result of your kind donations, because that's perhaps on the upper end of expenses in this country, because it's imported, obviously. Well, it might be made here, I don't know, but it's a little bit more expensive than their normal stuff. But Marmite's got a lot of vitamin B12 in, so because I'm a vegetarian, if you're vegan as well, which I am, although I say I'm vegan, I'm not officially vegan, because occasionally I eat cheese, which I don't know whether you know is actually one of our allowables. And where I've been feeling a bit hot and humid and a bit weak in the afternoon, I've occasionally had a bit of some kind of odd cheese, but cheese, as something just to settle my tummy. It's as an alternative to just butter or ghee, or as one of the allowables that monks are allowed in the afternoon. Now these sort of things are expensive, so thanks to your contributions, a little bit of money has gone a long way, because it's bought me a little jar of Marmite, and you only need to dip the end of your spoon in and have a little suck of the end of your spoon, and it's so it feels so good, it's so satisfying, and it's giving you a whole lot of vitamins, vitamin B12 particularly, that you don't get from a vegan or vegetarian diet, but you do get from that yeast extract, if you don't know what Vegemite, to all of you Australians watching. I prefer Vegemite. Sorry England, sorry Great Britain, sorry UK. I do prefer Vegemite, but I haven't seen that here. I prefer Vegemite only because of its texture. It tastes exactly the same, but it has a better texture. Marmite has a stringy, gloopy texture. Vegemite is more solid and spreadable. I'm talking about nonsense. This is what we call sampapalapa. Talk is the Pali word for talking nonsense. But your question is about these practicalities. So where does the money come from? So that incidental things like that, money comes from you, people who donate on this channel through PayPal or Buy Me a Coffee, and the donations that I don't accept financial donations on Pindapar or from people other than that means, because then I'm not dealing with cash, somebody else is. For flight tickets and emergency, say I had a hospital situation, I had to go to have expensive hospital treatment, which I did have in India, then I have this fund, which is an investment fund that is accessible from a current account, and a trustee who can access that and make sure that the money is available for these kind of things. So if I decided tomorrow I have to fly back to England to see my mother, I would contact my trustee. I don't even need to speak, I can just send a message to my trustee, and this ticket can be bought. It's there like an insurance, it's there for emergency purposes. I can't go out and take myself to a restaurant or something like that with it. It's not for that purpose. It's there so I don't become a burden on my host country or my host community. They wouldn't mind, and I know wherever I've stayed, they would always support all of these things, however expensive. But I feel at my stage of life and my age, because obviously more things happen to you the older you get, it's responsible of me to have those funds in place, and it's quite allowable as long as they're under what they call stewardship. So that's how that works. So does that answer the question? Yeah, I mean, so in a way my upasaka does sort those flights out. I mean, technically there's nothing wrong with me doing that either, because I don't have to touch the money. I can, and I do, book the flight on one of these phones. It's no problem. It's so easy to do these days. In fact, it's the easiest way to do it than someone else doing it for you, because the information is already on the phone. So I don't really think about it. It's not a big issue, unless I'm asked this question, when I have to think about it out loud in order to explain it. So let's get that's the same question. You can add English subtitles in the video, because many people can't understand properly by only hearing. And there's another question, much the same to that. Yes, I don't do that. YouTube do that. They do add subtitles automatically. There's a thing at the top, it says CC. I don't know what that means, something captions, closed captions or something. You click that, and then it gives you an option what language you want those subtitles to be in, and they come up. Now, they don't happen straight away the day the video comes out. I think it takes YouTube some time for these things to be applied. Like also, and I thought it was something that people making videos did. I thought it was very clever, but it seems that it's automatic also. For instance, if I keep a gap between each question, which I'm a bit not doing very well, then automatically YouTube splits these videos down into little time-stamped questions and sections and subjects, and even the chanting is split, but it takes all a little time to be applied. Not long. I did check on this, and yesterday, or the last video, which was a few days ago now, already has English subtitles. When I put that button, it did anyway. So they are there, but it's nothing to do with me. Then later on I have another question, and I'm not sure whether they meant English or another language. I think it largely depends again on the country you're in, the language you want to read the subtitles in, and how long that takes for them to go on. But it's an automatic thing. Everything really you see here is automatic and done by YouTube. I just sit here and talk. I press record, and at the end press stop. I really hope I did press record, and then at the end I can press stop. Otherwise I've been sitting here talking to you're on a very beautiful log today, rather than balanced on a piece of stone as you were last time. So I think this would be a nice spot for the future. You're not wobbling so much, and I'm nice and shaded. So yes, just tap that button. If they're not there, look at an older video to check, go way back, check it's working and it's not your system, maybe. And then if if you see captions there, you'll see then later in a day and few hours, they'll come up on the latest video. Hello sir, I want to start meditation. How to do? Oh, okay, well just keep watching this channel. I will be doing soon some guided meditations, some group sitting meditation. If you go to guided meditation here on this channel, there are some guided meditations, but firstly, look on this channel how to meditate. I think it might be just called something simply like that. Firstly, look at how to sit for meditation. I'd like to go through the process now at some length, and I will make another video again soon about these postures, so when I'm sitting in a situation where I can demonstrate more easily, and about how to meditate. But there are videos already there. If you put in how to meditate English monk, you'll get me talking about this kind of meditation only. But really, the quick answer to your question is just sit down in a comfortable position, close your eyes, make sure you're in an environment where you won't be interrupted for a little while, and know that time, so half an hour or quarter of an hour or 1 hour, whatever suits you, and just sit and do nothing. That's all you have to do. Sit and do nothing. And if you can, bring your attention to watching the breath as you breathe in and as you breathe out. It doesn't matter so much where, but just know you're breathing in and know you're breathing out. And that is how to do meditation, quite simply. Start like that. Just that is enough. And you'll really enjoy it. So it's a good question. And then particularly recognize your circle, these ball, whatever that's called. You've asked me quite a few other good questions, but I'm not going to get to them yet because you've put them on a string, if that makes any sense. So please, again, ask these questions as new questions, like those two in succession were from the same subscriber. But now your next two questions I didn't get to for some days afterwards, so now they won't come here for some days afterwards, which is a shame because they were good questions and they were kind of relevant to the theme. But now I can't remember them, so until we get there it'll have to wait a little while. This one will have to wait also because it's very long to read. Do you have any recommendations of Thai Forest tradition monasteries that are accommodating to ordaining Westerners with possible lifelong commitment? Yes, so Thai Forest tradition monasteries outside of Thailand, it depends what country you're in, but in Thailand I would, and I'm assuming you're thinking English speaking, so I would say Wat Pa Nanachat, which is the Ajahn Chah International version of the Thai Forest monasteries in Thailand, which is where most people go from abroad because it's English speaking and it's where you can learn a lot. Good place to start because if you don't know the language then it can be a very long haul. So that's a good place to start if you don't have a monastery in your own country where you can go of this tradition. And then alternatively to that is Wat Marp Jan, where I spent a lot of time training. So if you Google Wat Pa Nanachat, you can spell it phonetically as I've said it, Wat Pa Nanachat, or Wat Marp Jan, M-A-R-P-J-A-N, Wat, W-A-T, Marp Jan. Those two I would recommend to you. So in concentration meditation, the distractions themselves never become meditation objects. You focus on the condition of the breath. Yes, absolutely. So what I was saying earlier about distractions, now there will be them. You don't let them become meditation objects. The reason being is you don't know that they're going to stay around. So for instance, the noise of a car or even a ticking clock could stop and then interrupt your meditation. The breath or something you've chosen as a meditation object that is going to stay for the duration of your meditation should be your meditation object, and always brought your attention, your awareness brought back to that meditation object when it wavers, when it wanders. When you are distracted by a sound, let that sound remind you only of its now, the present moment you are hearing. Your ears are hearing sound, just that, and that's reminding you of the present moment, that in this moment you're not listening to the sound for now. You can listen to it later. You're coming back to what your meditation object is, bringing your awareness to the meditation object. So yes, you're absolutely correct. And the condition of the breath is a very good way of putting it. Breathing in, knowing, is the breath deep, is it shallow, long, short, warm, cool. Temperature is very important with breath. Notice as you breathe in, often the breath is cool. As you breathe out, it's indetectable because it's achieved the same temperature as your body, so it's not so noticeable. Or it may even feel warm, hot. Is this Sri Lanka? I'm guessing you're looking at a recent video, and in that case, yes, it is. If you were looking at a slightly older video, it would have been India, and a bit older, it would have been Thailand. And before that, it would have been India again. And that's where it all began, about a year ago. How would you characterize a Buddhist's relationship to his or her scriptures? They are the teachings, the scriptures, the Pali Canon, or the Tritipika, so which is the three baskets of this means. So it's really the Vinaya Pitaka, the Sutta Pitaka. Well, then there's some variances of opinion, but they say it's the Abhidharma. But there are many other books, but this is overall the scriptures, or the Pali Canon, in the Pali language. In the northern traditions, it's in the Sanskrit language. But in Theravada Buddhism, we use the Pali Canon, and that is our scriptures, yes, one way of putting it. And these scriptures we consider as our teachings. They are the word, the Sutta Pitaka particularly, is the word of the Buddha. The Vinaya Pitaka is the... and we call that word of the Buddha, the teachings, the Dharma, in that sense. But also Dharma means everything, nature, existence, the universe. But it's basically also the capital D, Dharma, is the teachings of the Buddha, the word of the Buddha, mostly contained in the Sutta Pitaka and the Vinaya Pitaka, but the Vinaya Pitaka is mainly the rules and ways of behavior for bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, so ordained monks and nuns. So it's for the Sangha. So we have the Buddha, the Dharma. So the Buddha was the teacher, the Dharma his teachings, and the Sangha are those operatives of his teachings. Or if you like, alive teachers, people whom continuing to practice his teachings, not by way of preaching, but by living as an example for others to follow, in the sense of living the Dharma, living the way of the Buddha's, the word of the Buddha, his teachings. So the short answer is the teachings is our relationships. How would I characterize a Buddhist's relationship to his or her scriptures? Yes, our relationship is that they are our teachings. Like a textbook. If you were learning physics, your physics textbook would be how you learn this practice. Okay, I think I should make this the last question, because I'm not sure how long I've been talking, but it must be long enough. Thank you so much for doing these videos. You are very welcome. It is my pleasure. I know you're not supposed to touch a monk. How would you deal with family members or friends who used to hug and kiss you and can no longer do that? For example, if you were to go visit family or friends and this is forbidden, don't go and visit them. No, that's not a very good answer, is it? I have to be a bit honest with you. I'm not a touchy-feely person. The whole hugging and kissing thing's never been, I've never been very fond of that. I think it's allowed that your mother is allowed to just about only give you a hug and a kiss, and I don't think there's any monks who would say, no mother, you cannot do that. Actually, I do know some. But that's probably only their public persona, I'm sure. Well, I'm not sure, but I would hope that in normal circumstances, in a family environment, with close friends or even monastic brothers and sisters, they'd be less formal. Your mother only. But as for other relatives and such like, I suppose not being touchy-feely myself and into that, I've spent my lifetime avoiding those circumstances, so I just continue along the same way. That's how I would deal with it, and that's the only way I can answer, really, from my own experience. I think my sister's going to give me a big hug when I arrive in the country or when I leave the country. I think that's okay if you're in a public place. it's with your mother and such like family environments. Use your logic. We're not here to harm people, hurt people's feelings, but they realise. Before I even knew about Buddhism, I think most people that I've come across in my life, and in fact maybe it's a British thing, we don't really like people just touching us unnecessarily. I'm not sure where the questioner comes from, but I know certainly, and I can't really tell from that. Yeah, I mean we're not a touchy-feely nation. So if someone was to come up and touch me anywhere, I'd think, hey, you're invading my space a little there. One thing that was very useful was this, for monks, was this COVID thing, this pandemic, because of course no one was allowed to do even handshaking, because we're not supposed to shake hands either. So I was in England for 6 months during the COVID lockdown thing, part of it. I was locked down. Outside I was locked down in my van, not even a camper van, it was just an empty van on a beach for 6 months. And a very beautiful beach, not like this, but it was still a beautiful beach, and it was summer, so it was a wonderful time. But of course there was this distancing, they called it, social distancing or whatever, which is a monk's norm. That's a monk's normal way of behaviour. If you think of the COVID rules, that's how you should behave around a monk. And I think maybe some people still do act like that. I'm not sure. I've not been to, since then, I've not really been to a Western country, so I don't know. And here, they know they can't touch you. So even in a shop, I can't take from a lady, I can't take if I go in there and she's giving me something, handing me something, I can't take it directly. It has to be put on something and offered properly. But they know that here. In England, you just don't go into a shop, because I mean, of course, the money situation would be complicated and it would all be difficult. So you just avoid these situations. That's all. I think who would want to go up and touch someone like this? Looking like this, it's a bit. It's off-putting, and that's probably why we're dressed like this. Now I've got to the rest of the questions from the person whom put them on a string, which I will save for next time, because they're good questions and shouldn't be rushed. None of them should be rushed. So hopefully there's something of interest there, or useful at least, and if so, then please use it. If not, just let it go, ignore it, forget about it. And if you want to, share this with others as your gift of Dharma, if you like. Thank you for watching. There's people building up around, so I might have some more conversations now.